Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
What paranormal experiences have you witnessed in person IRL?
When I was in my early teens, I had a weird experience at my oldest, closest friend's house. We'd been friends since I was around 6, so we were close. His parents owned this massive wood house out in bushland. Not super deep out, but like a big, nice forest house. 2 floors, but stretched over 3 stories, with the bottom floor having really high ceilings. And the house in general had a very open, roomy structure. Lots of huge open space, especially in the main area. Honestly, the house was gorgeous. His parents are now divorced, but back then his mom in particular was a really lovely lady. Really into feng shui, ancient Hindu stuff. They were the kind of family that always had incense burning and Buddha statues around. His dad was also nice, but much, much weirder. I always figured he was on the spectrum as he just had weird mannerisms. My mate used to joke with me how his dad was legitimately into alchemy and the occult. He used to have, I'm not kidding, these meetings with apparently wealthy people from the nearby city. His family and mine lived in a rural country where they'd talk about summoning dragons. He was just a weird dude, like a blend of loving science and the occult at the same time. Nice, but obviously spurgy, and just into weird shit both my friend and I would laugh about. For what it's worth, I am and always have been a skeptic and atheist. I mainly come to /x/ for the cool imagery and fun stories, not for seriousness. And my friend was basically on the same level as me, always has been anyway. This one time I was at their house, and in my friend's room, which was one of the very top stories. He went downstairs to grab us some food, and all of a sudden the room was overcome with this odd rumbling and shifting sound. It's hard to describe, like the combination of a jet engine and construction work, a distinct, deep rumble. And it very, very clearly would shift from one side of the room to the others, as if it was encompassing the very walls and structure of the room and moving through them, loudly and obviously. I could not only hear it so very loudly, almost suffocatingly so, but feel the sensation of the walls rumbling. It's extremely hard to describe, but it was just so weird, as if the walls were resonating intensely with a strong sound wave, rumbling accordingly, and that resonance was so precise it could move through the room from left to right to left to right and so on. This went on for like a minute maybe? Not too long, but long enough for me to be very conscious of it happening and noting the very distinct back and forth shifting and movement of the sound. It wasn't at all scary, and I wasn't scared, just very confused and unsettled in like, is this house about to collapse? Kinda way. My friend came back upstairs with some food, and I quizzed him on what the hell that was, and he legitimately had heard nothing. He was confused at what I was talking about. Keep in mind, his bedroom on the top floor was connected to the massive open foyer area on the bottom via an open staircase, and this area included the kitchen. So there's fundamentally no way he couldn't have heard something if it happened. All these years later, I just chalked it up to both an auditory and sensory hallucination, because I both heard the loud rumbling noise and felt the rumbling of the room and the shifting. I have no idea what else it could be because nobody has ever offered me any explanation. And after looking around his yard and house for the 1000th time, I was already very familiar with his home. There was nothing I could see that caused it. All these years later, as said, his parents are long divorced. His mom is doing really well and is just as lovely as ever. His dad completely dropped off the grid and basically disappeared. The kids stopped talking to him too.
Exploding head syndrome or auditory hallucination or some sort of resonance?
No idea, man. Like I said, I'm a hardened skeptic and my mate is too. I think about dumb shit I believed as a kid that I've long since found reasonable, evidence-based conclusions to. But to this day, I cannot for the life of me provide an answer to that experience and remember it absolutely vividly. I grew up in bushland too, in houses that had rats, possums occasionally get in the ceiling or run the inside of walls. This literally sounded like an aggressive, overbearing rumbling of machinery, or something vibrating through the walls and ceiling and moving around. It was so distinct. All these years later, I was probably 14 or 15 when it happened, and I'm 32 now. and the only logical conclusion I can come to was a very, very potent auditory and sensory hallucination. And I mean, in my early 20s, I'd tried hallucinogenics, and this still was nothing like hallucinating on those. I was so lucid and the sounds and feeling of rumbling wood so distinct and real.
My first thought was an earthquake, but your friend would have heard that too. Unless, of course, he was shitting with you.
The area I was living at the time wasn't even in the ballpark of a fault line, and in the 19 years I lived there, we got maybe one earthquake, and it was incredibly trivial. More likely to have the house burn down from a bushfire than collapse under an earthquake. Most direct correlation I can give to the experience is, imagine being in a room with a dense group of invisible bats, and whenever they fly, the resonance from their flapping wings vibrates so intensely with nearby surfaces that said surfaces rumble very aggressively. That's what it sounded like. I figured my friend was having me on, but he had no reason to, and was convinced I was having him on by the end of our discussion. Weirdest shit.
I had a friend like that. Right before stumbling onto some interesting occult books, I shared with him what I was reading. He said he wanted to show me his grandparents' house. They were quite older. I was 19, female, and he was 20. He took me to the basement to show me their basement bathroom. It was the bathroom mirror as normal, with this crazy, intricate old, huge wooden mirror directly facing each other. We quickly shut the door because after this weird knowledge, mind you, I had never tried any sort of hallucinogenic drug, things started happening, as well as knowing at the time my apartment was severely haunted. I have had many things manifest themselves, which, yay, sounds crazy, but I was very devout to this secret knowledge of the world, and also it became a game to spot these shadows of the world. Now thinking about it, I felt bitter that those things kept me up in the night at that time, but now I sort of understand things as I see fit according to the light.
In middle school, I came home one day after school. Grandfather was at work every day, so I had the house to myself for a while. I was on the computer playing some game, and the piano upstairs started playing some creepy tune by itself. I panicked. There were no TVs on or anything. Windows were all shut. As soon as I called him, it stopped. Another time, as I was unlocking the door, someone peeked out the blinds at me, so I assumed he got home early from work. I went inside and nobody's there. I moved back in a few years ago, maybe like 6 months in. I was asleep on the couch one day, woke up to talking in the house. There's 2 police officers in the kitchen. They say someone reported seeing someone break into my house. I say no, I didn't see anything, and they leave. The doors are locked at all times, and there was no sign of anyone in my house. Lots of other creepy shit has happened here.
Not sure if this qualifies. 21 years ago, looking for a new house. Me, wife, and realtor visit a house in town. Older husband and wife sitting on the porch waiting for us. Exchange pleasantries, and the 3 of us head inside. Wife and realtor head for the kitchen. My wife is keen on kitchens. I head to the 2nd floor to check out the bedrooms. Look into the 1st bedroom, walk around it, check out the size, look into the 2nd bedroom. Little boy sitting at a desk looks like he's doing homework. Say sorry, and head to the 3rd bedroom. Check it out, check out the size and layout, and head back towards the stairs. Stop at the 2nd bedroom to try to get a better look at it before I leave. Little boy is gone. No boy, no books. Like he was never there. Go back downstairs and wife and realtor are talking to the couple on the porch. Just small talk. I ask, how many kids did you raise in this house? Wife answers, just 1, but he died young. Hair on the back of my neck stands up. Say goodbye to the older couple and realtor. Nope it out of there. Told my wife about it. Since I've had similar experiences, she believed me and we crossed that house off our list.
Wow, that is creepy. I've had one sort of ghostly encounter. I woke up from taking a nap at my parents' house and I heard some voices upstairs, like 2 people talking to each other with a calm voice. At the time, it seemed normal, like I thought nothing of it. A few minutes later, I walked upstairs only to find the house completely empty. No radio on or nothing. I felt kind of doofy and confused, and honestly didn't know what to think of it.
When I was about 7 years old, there was a girl at my school who said she saw a statue of the Virgin Mary move while watching it. You could see it in the church from the schoolyard. She said it opened its hands from the prayer position and looked over at her. I remember a few of the kids went to look through the window, but we were kind of freaked out. I thought she was just being weird and was seeking attention. Maybe she heard about the statues that cry or have blood tears or something in unexplained mysteries books. Anyway, I thought she was being dramatic. At this time, about 6 or 7 of us kids all sat in a circle in the schoolyard and held hands in a circle. I can't remember why we decided to do this, but someone picked a white flower from somewhere and put it in the middle. We said some Hail Mary and Our Father prayers. Then someone says, "Show us some proof that what happened to the statue was real." Kind of like dumb kids going, "Dear God, if there was some freaky shit going on, please give us a sign." Then the flower in the middle turned from white to purple. I freaked out and got up and noped out. I couldn't comprehend what happened and convinced myself it was a trick of my eyes or an optical illusion. I don't speak to any of those people 'cause it was like 30 years ago. But I remember they didn't seem as freaked out, but they all saw it too. But to them it was just kind of normal, but I was panicked because it was something that has no rational explanation. That's pretty much the most legit paranormal thing that's happened to me. I mostly avoid things like seances and scary inner woods. We were just little kids, on a normal school day. No teachers were there, nobody out us up to it. Just kind of happened out of the blue.
Well, I regularly do ritual magic and general occult shit that gets results and gives me and whoever else is performing the rituals with me varying degrees of contact with spirits, and a couple years of lucid dreaming has led to similar, but my dramatic contact. But magic isn't real. You're mentally ill or imagining things and not realizing it. So the most dramatic, involuntary thing happened in PIC-related. This building has stood in my small Irish town for close to 200 years by now. Originally, it was a market house for local traders, then a parochial house for the parish priest, then a B&B, abandoned for a long time and is now some sort of community center thing. When it was abandoned, all the windows were boarded shut, but some resourceful teenager managed to break a board and window in the back, allowing you to crawl into the bathroom. It was a tricky maneuver that had you standing on broken glass in the old bathtub, making a load of noise as you went. Inside was pitch black too, due to the rest of the windows being boarded up. So dark that a handful of steps leading down from the bath into a back kitchen looked like they went on forever. Naturally, the place was too scary for most people to go in, so only hardcore stoners who needed somewhere private to smoke or do drugs would go any further. Walking through 2 rooms with the light from your phone, bumping into all sorts of shit, would lead you to the main hall where an unboarded skylight illuminated the front part of the house. One summer, me and my friends spent idle time there, mostly because 3 of them were basically drug addicts that wouldn't go anywhere they couldn't smoke. Well, familiar with the place, it stopped being scary and was just somewhere private to hang out. Then, one day, 5 or 6 of us were sitting on the top of stairs under the skylight, when suddenly we heard multiple sets of footsteps walking around on the ground floor. Somehow we didn't hear them come in. We shit the brick because it's either A, junkies who might try to fight us, or B, cops. So we hide upstairs and try to figure out what to do, because there's no way out without walking past them. In the end, we just decide to talk our way out. Junkies might leave us be, and cops won't arrest us because we're underage. So we go downstairs, say, "Hey, who's that?" No one responds. Maybe we've scared them? Feeling confident now, we start looking in all of the other rooms with our flashlights. And there's no one there. It slowly dawns on all of us, including our 100% fedora-tipping friend who has no time for even the suggestion of the paranormal, and we shit the brick even harder. We run to the back of the house, into the bathroom, and dive out that window like reverse Winnie the Pooh. We never went back in. We tell other kids the story, and most have something similar. Some people suggest it's the ghost of the priest who died there. Again, though, could be teenage imagination, possibly. Maybe multiple people all imagined the same paranormal event. Maybe other kids did the same, separate from us. Fast forward years later, the building is restored, and the guy who manages it is commissioning me for graphic design and research for a business he wants to start. He lets me use a room in the building as an office so I can get some quiet away from home. Nothing weird happens. As I go in one day, however, I smell incense of some sort. Smells familiar. Turns out the secretary, this Australian semi-goth 30-something, has been burning sage regularly in the building to smudge it. Tells me she's getting weird vibes from the place. I tell her the above story in confidence. She tells me that when she's here late, by herself or with one other person, doors not only swing open and closed, but the doorknobs twist, as if someone is walking room to room. I moved out of the town later that year.
Be me. Be 14. It was my father's first death anniversary. One of my friends claims that he can see paranormal shit. In short, had his third eye open. I decided to do something stupid. Went to my room and whispered, "Dad, if you're here, show some signs." Waited and waited. Noticed something. My room went cold all of a sudden. I live in the tropics, so this is unusual. I started to breathe heavily. I felt like something was choking me. I could feel the tension getting stronger and stronger, and everything stopped when my friend approached me. He told me how he could feel something malignant. Something just didn't feel right, he says. I told him about what I did. He said he saw this Orb of Shadow go to my room as he was passing by. I still don't know what to make of this experience. From what I have read, it's not really the soul of my father that was present at that time, but rather a jinn or some demonic force. Needless to say, this experience is the reason why I lurk this board.
Visit the area my mother's family are from. Her brother and his family still live there. I'm about 17 at the time. Go wandering about outside. Isn't that hot? But then it feels like I'm on the surface of the sun. Everything looks and feels sort of like 2D. Think I have heat stroke. See a small pub, go there for a drink, not alcohol, pretty much empty and dated. See two guys at a table talking. They look very familiar. Keep looking at them. They notice. Eventually, one comes over, menacingly, and asks why I keep looking. Suddenly know who they are. They're my two uncles. It's me, Anon. Who? Your sister's son, Anon? Start reeing at me that his sister is only 12. Very definitely not my uncles. Aha! Just memeing bros. I'm a doctor. Boyish good looks give this ruse away. Blood could be spilled. Run out the doors and back to Uncle's house. Still hot as sin. When I get back to his place, it doesn't seem so hot anymore. Have a peculiar first name, so much that no one calls me by it, except for myself and my mother, and everyone else uses a shortened version, like Jonathan and John, for example, except more rare. Haven't seen my uncle since I was a young ankle biter. We sit out back and start talking. Accidentally calls me by my full first name, literally grimaces at it. Ask what's up with it. Tells me that back in the 70s, he and his brother were in the pub when someone called and started trying to dab on them. When they chased him out of the pub, he'd totally disappeared. My mother overheard him telling this to his parents that same night. My mother loved the name. To him, it was cursed. Don't know if I've always been cursed or if I somehow named myself.
I never comment here, but I want to share this. It's completely true, and I never came up with an explanation. So 2 or 3 years ago, I was standing in the driveway with my buddy when we both saw this glowing gem-shaped orb floating, moving like 10 miles per hour, over the van parked in the same driveway. We were sober, and it was nighttime, and we saw it clear as day. It wasn't a shooting star, as it seemed to be only 50 feet above us, slowly hovering over. It looked like glowing sacred geometry, a gem with defined lines and points. It glowed bright white. It was honestly so close and clear, I don't think it was a UFO. I take it as something spiritual, or a more logical answer, maybe something that exists in nature, heat lighting perhaps. Definitely not aliens, but still a UFO.
Quite a few. Live on a mountain viewing the ocean and an airport, so I've seen a lot in the sky. Lots of UFOs and lights, definitely some government experimenting too. Seen drones drop stuff into the ocean, then shoot up into the clouds. Seen orbs of light mimic airplanes but go back and forth in differing speeds, then just magically transform into planes and land at the airport. Sometimes they turn around before landing and turn back into a light. Seen one light go nuts during a fireworks show. Seen an individual star drop out of the sky while stargazing, with witnesses. During the harvest moon years ago, the moon would literally change. You could see the edge go from smooth to jagged to almost a warping smokiness, and then sometimes it'd visibly moon, which is impossible to see with the naked eye. Once it moved so fast from when I started watching it that it set in 8 minutes. Also messed with the New Age and the occult, so a few experiences with that. Alone with permanent visual snow and seeing colors when my eyes are closed. Been scratched before while resisting a tarot card reading. A friend wanted to practice while I kept her company while she house sat. The guest house we were staying at had demonic masks lining the ceiling frame of the living room. I prayed the whole time, and the next day I realized I had faint scratches on the back on my neck. Also, I guess you could say I've been Mandela affected more than once, I think, but I only clearly remember one. I had a digital watch with a plastic face. One day in a parking lot, I scratched the face of that watch in my hip, sliding between a parked car and a pillar. The scratch was deep on the watch, not something that'd fade, but a year or two later I randomly noticed the scratch was gone. But not just that. The watch still had the plastic film they put to protect from fingerprints on it. I thought I was going crazy, but then I remembered my hip. I had a small scar from it. P.S. Also, after messing with the occult, literally can't pray with ease. Involuntary thoughts and words and slight spasms happen, especially when I try to finish the prayer.
This one time in high school, I had to carry around an egg for psych class. We had to bring it with us everywhere for the school day for a week or so. Well, one day, near the end of the week, I was walking between classes, and all of a sudden I lose consciousness, but not like I drop to the flow kind, I just blank, and when that happened, I dropped my egg. For the first couple of seconds I was confused. Then I saw the egg on the floor and started to clean it up, but after a while I realized it's outside, it doesn't matter. I went to class like normal and never had an experience like it again. The only explanation I can surmise is that the timelines had split and my mind skipped to adjust to it.
Now, I don't believe in demonic possession, but I saw something that had the appearance of that. A friend of mine with severe alcoholism had no place to stay one night, so I let him in. He was showing me how to assemble and play my clarinet at one point. He said he needed food, so I let him walk to the gas station a few blocks away. He came back 1.5 hours later and was stumbling around. I sat him on the couch and turned the lights off, figuring he'd pass out. Instead, he fucking sprang up and stumbled over and fell on his face a few feet away from me. I was trying to jostle him to consciousness when he started crawling at me and swiping at my ankles. He asked me for specifically 35 milligrams of cocaine, which he knew I didn't have. After falling against the wall, he held his hands out, asking for help up. I offered my hands, but instead of trying to get up, he squeezed my hands about as hard as I think he could. I told him he couldn't stay if he was hurting me, so he got up and went toward the kitchen. I repeated that I wanted him to leave, and he ripped out a fistful of my hair. He took my rum and a beer, and on the way out my front door, he fell on his face. He started thrashing, so I took the alcohol back, bolted my door, and called for EMTs. He started banging the door as well. For a significant part of this, I saw his eyes rolling back in his head. Before this, he had never been physically harmful toward me.
Hard drugs like coke and alcohol can fuck up a person. I witnessed a guy on a 4 or 5 day coke binge and I thought the same thing. It seemed like there was something else, like a demon controlling him. I've never seen anyone higher than that and I'll never forget it.
It happened a single day in an old apartment I used to live. Get home from work tired, Mom and Dad gone to the market. Hear the door opening and footsteps. I clearly thought it was my sister. Call her name, nothing, there's nobody in the house. Decide to take a shower. Hear voices whispering in my ears. Couldn't make sense of what it was due to the shower noise. Soon as I turn the shower off, voices disappear. Okay, I'm scared. Mom and Dad come back home. We have breakfast together. Coffee mug suddenly moves by itself. Even my dad, who is a serious non-believer, got scared that day. I also shared some pics of the apartment with a couple of friends who were psychs, and they told me the pics caused some uncomfortable feelings to them, and the place was full of obscure energy.
The last part of your experience is the only paranormal thing I've ever witnessed, though I really do keep my eye out for more. Great-grandmother passed away, missed her funeral due to uni. Later that night, I went out to a Japanese restaurant. While waiting for food, we get given 2 lukewarm glasses of table water. Talking to my ex-girlfriend about our day. Suddenly, her cup slides towards me. We both witness it, as does the waitress. Table is fixed into the ground. No moisture on the glass. Physically impossible for it to have moved the way it did. Even the waitress was impressed because she thought I was doing a magic trick. It's definitely the most least paranormal thing, and the only paranormal thing I've ever witnessed, but I've always believed in everything just a smidge. I take everything with a grain of salt because this world is crazy and chaotic, and most of the time no one knows WTF is actually going on. As they say, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see.
When I was about 14, 22 now, I was going through a lot of conflicts internally. I was a Christian, and I prayed a lot for God to fix my problems. I eventually got overwhelmed and frustrated, so I started taking an interest in the devil. I never sold my soul, so to speak, but I will say that I tried praying to the devil, looked up a bunch of information, and just had a fascination with that kind of stuff for a while. I think when I realized that satanic stuff wasn't anything to mess around with was shortly after my grandfather passed away around this time. Not related, but just around this time. I was on my computer one night under my sheets. Occasionally, I'd peek my head out to get some air. Computers get super hot under the sheets. When I first did this, I saw a shadow move across my window. I thought nothing of it because I knew it was my imagination. A few minutes later, I peeked out to the left side, and in front of my fan, I saw the figure of a girl in a white dress, about 5 feet tall, black hair, and her face was like a void of complete darkness. I was practically shitting myself because I couldn't believe I was actually seeing some sort of entity. Other than not being able to sleep till like 6 a.m. That's as far as it goes. It would have been creepy enough if it stopped there. But the next morning, I heard my dad describing the same exact figure staring at him from his doorway. I'm not seeking attention or LARPing. I've just genuinely always wondered what this entity was that visited me and what it wanted. Any help would be appreciated.
Honestly, it sounds like one of the Japanese mythology folklores called yokai or something along that line, spelled closely enough. Look it up, it may be her. I had a similar experience, but I had no idea what it was. I simply called him No-Face because that is what he was. Apparently, he is also an apparition, but was actually stalking my house at night.
This is the only ghosty story that happened to me that I cannot explain. I've told it here before, but here goes again. Friend and I are riding bikes on train tracks because the road we need to take is two-way with no shoulder. Tracks leave the road to go around an old sawmill from the 1860s, then come back to the road where you can cross it. The sawmill is inside a valley below the road and train tracks. Tracks above the sawmill lot about 20-30 feet. There are old creepy buildings and trees and shit, but nothing scary, just a lumberyard now. The lot is probably 50 yards long by 30 yards wide, with absolutely nothing in it but flat dirt. As we're riding along, just passing the lot, I hear a loud yell directly in my ear. Ha! Like 100% right in my ear, as if whoever said it was standing right next to me. It nearly threw me off my bike as I turned to look to see who was yelling. I only managed to get a glimpse, as riding on tracks on a 30-foot tall berm is difficult, but I saw who was yelling. Standing down in the middle of the lot was a man who was probably in his mid-20s. Wearing 100% Old West clothes. No hat, shoulder-length hair, scruffy face, bad teeth. I caught all of that in the split-second glimpse I saw of him. And he still had the expression of making that yell on his face. I turned my head back to the front and yell up to my friend to look at this fucking weirdo. And by the time I turned back around to look at the man in the lot, he was, of course, gone. There's absolutely zero way any human could have run out of our line of sight from our location looking at the lot down below in that amount of time. The guy had vanished. We both stopped on the tracks to scan the area and noticed that it was like all sound had stopped. Like time was frozen, no air moving, no car sounds, nothing. So we booked it out of there. Was weird as shit, and the only explanation is that it was ghosty.
I had a group of aliens I think surrounded my bed when I was a kid. I put my sheet over my head, but I could still see their shapes moving around. I felt like they were measuring me or examining my legs or something. It was truly fucked up. In the early 2000s, we're in the army out in the field in FT Hood. Saw two lights chasing each other in the sky doing maneuvers that no aircraft can do. Then the next night there was a flash of light and darkness turned to daylight for about 2 seconds. Freaked everybody out. Was not a flare or something. It was just like daylight.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.